Robert offered a reward for anyone who returns his lost wallet. What type of contract is this?
Great job! Unilateral is the accurate answer. What is the minimum requirement for an individual to enter into a certified teacher contract? You got it! Your choice bachelor's degree is right. An infant's contract can be valid contract if it falls in the following circumstances except
Smart pick. All of the above is the correct choice. Under the dash of their contract, employees must give 3 months. Notice when they leave.
You chose terms, and it is correct. Lucas agreeing to accept Jen's proposal to sell her car is which element of a contract?
Correct response. Acceptance is the most accurate answer.
Jacob negotiates with Herman over the purchase of his car. How is this contract accepted?
Correct. Counteroffer is the right answer.
Below are the requirements should exist to show element of acceptance. Is fulfill accept? Strong choice. Acceptance must be reasonable is the right answer.
Generally, the following people do not have the capacity to make a valid contract except.
Exactly. Majors make sense and it is right choice. A contract that has been fully performed. Both parties have done all they promised to do. Nice selection. Executed contract is the correct and valid answer.
Which of the following is the most common, acceptable reason to discharge a contract?
Valid point. Performance is true.
A contract entered into under duress or as result of fraud or misrepresentation is. Good thinking. Voidable is the right answer.
Dash is the central idea that both parties in a contract need to benefit from it. Well picked. Consideration is the correct answer. That work contract specific for time, like 5 months. This contract called Dash. Nice work. You chose fixed-term employment contract, and it is correct. Following statement shows a person who is competent to enter a contract except.
Perfect. Insane is the correct choice.
A contract that is essentially valid, but is without legal remedy is said to be. Right choice. Unenforceable is the best answer.
Javer's proposal to sell his car for $5,000 is which element of a contract?
Great thinking. Offer is the right choice. How many remedies is a person entitled to when suing for a breach of contract? Excellent. 4 is a brilliant choice.
The act of transferring one's rights under a contract to another party is Dash.
Clear logic. Your choice and assignment is sound and 100% true.
Which below is the best example of who would receive a extra duty contract?
Smart move. Coach is an accurate answer. What the work contract will provide for both parties. Sharp thinking. Rights and obligations is the right choice. A failure to provide complete performance of a contract is a dash. Nicely done. Breach of contract is a solid answer. A contract to charge a set price with competitors violates which element? Solid response. Legality is a valid choice. To form a contract, one party makes an offer which is dash by other party.
Good job. Your answer accepted works well here.
Dash is having the ability to understand the consequences of a contract.
Excellent choice. Contractual capacity is the right answer. Something positive which a party wants to get from a contract is dash. Right again. Rights is a valid answer. Which of these forms is not acceptable to be chosen in a contract? Bravo! Foreign court is the answer. Which of the following is not legal remedy for breach of contract? Well reasoned. Recession is the correct choice. Tick each of the 3 elements of a legally enforceable contract. You're right. Offer and acceptance, consideration, intention to be legally bound is the correct answer. The main elements of a contract include all the following except. On track. Invitation to treat is the correct answer. For there to be a valid contract, parties must agree on the dash. Well done. Essential terms is the right choice. What is the main law governing the law of contract in Malaysia? Well done. Contracts Act 1950 is the right choice. Which of the following is not a required element of a contract? Great job. Cash value exchange is the accurate answer. Another name for a contract implied in law is a dash contract. Great thinking. Quasi is the right choice. A subtle formality for consideration to legalize a contract is. Well reasoned. Nominal consideration is the correct choice. Delegation occurs when a party to the contract transfers dash. Clear logic. Your choice, responsibility, and authority for a particular contractual duty is sound and 100% true. Which of these elements is not required to create a contract? Nicely done. Requirement is a solid answer. Which of the following is not a way to discharge a contract? Or, good job. Your answer parties did not bankrupt works well here. Name the 2 elements which combine agreement in a contract. Nice work. You chose offer and acceptance, and it is correct. Which party must sign a contract to represent the company? Exactly. Director makes sense, and it is right choice. What is the purpose of the Deceptive Trade Practices Act? Bravo. Protect the public from false or misleading acts is the answer. What is one way an exclusion clause can protect one party? Well picked. All of the above is the correct answer. An implied contract arises from the dash of the parties? You're right. Actions is the correct answer. The forfeiture of earnest money is a common example of. Right choice. The contractually stipulated payment of liquidated damages is the best answer. Which case states that you can contract with the world? Solid response. Carlyle v. Carbolic Smoke Ball Company Limited is a valid choice.
What will you do when you sign an employment contract?
Valid point. Read it all, then sign, and take a copy is true. Who many change or add to the extra duty? Contract. Perfect. District is the correct choice. Which of these is an essential part of a contract? On track. Condition is the correct answer. One of the 4 requirements to make a contract is. Smart pick. consideration is the correct choice.
What are the factors that will vitiate a contract?
Sharp thinking. All listed here is the right choice. Which of the following is not part of a contract?
Nice selection. Introduction is the correct and valid answer.
The body of law that governs contract enforcement. Excellent choice. Contract law is the right answer.
An agreement not enforceable by law is said to be. Strong choice. Void is the right answer. What does the word party in contract law mean? Good thinking. Side is the right answer.
The lawyers declared the contract null and dash.
You chose void, and it is correct.
The role of the broker-lawyer committee is dash.
Correct response. Draft and revise contract forms is the most accurate answer. A minor has the capacity to contract when dash. Excellent. For necessities like food, clothing, and lodging is a brilliant choice. A bilateral contract involves a promise for a.
Your choice promise is right.
A failure to perform the terms of a contract. Right again. Breach is a valid answer.
What is the synonym to the word contract?
Smart move. Agreement is an accurate answer. Any agreement that's legally enforceable is correct. A binding contract is the right answer.
Find the definition of the word contract. Right again. A promise which creates legal rights is a valid answer. What type of contract has no legal effect?
Excellent choice. Void contract is the right answer.
An oral contract to pay another's debt.
Strong choice. Is not enforceable is the right answer. The word contract is defined under dash.
Smart move. Section 2 of Contract Act 1950 is an accurate answer.
What are essential terms of a contract? Solid response. Price and subject matter is a valid choice.
Misrepresentation will make a contract.
Nicely done. Voidable is a solid answer. Among the functions of contract law is well done. Settle disputes among people is the right choice. In a valid contract, what comes first? Correct. Proposal is the right answer, which is a type of unilateral mistake. Clear logic. Your choice signing a contract without reading it is sound and 100% true. Which contracts are binding on minor? Perfect. Contract of necessaries is the correct choice. S2 Contracts Act 1950 states that. Smart pick. Agreement enforceable by law is a contract is the correct choice.
Legally binding agreement examples. Great thinking. All answers are correct is the right choice.
Non-essential elements of a contract. Good thinking. A warranty is the right answer. An essential term of the contract. Exactly. A condition makes sense, and it is right choice. It defines the kind of contract. Valid point. Title is true. What is the statute of frauds? You got it. Your choice contracts that are required to be written is right. How many types of contract? Sharp thinking. 3 is the right choice.
What is a contract? Well picked. Legally binding agreement between parties is the correct answer.
What is rescission? You chose mutual agreement of abolishing a contract, and it is correct. What is false? You're right. Printed contract is the correct answer. How you will get all these quiz questions in PDF books format.
Correct response. Contact Narayan Changder is the most accurate answer